Hello everyone, my name is Hui Huang. I'm a researcher from Mobile Research Center in the Free University of Brussels. My topic today is the multi-actor multi-criteria analysis, new software and new visualization. Mobile Research Center focuses on supporting and studying the transition towards a more sustainable mobility and logistics systems. The multi-actor, multi-criteria analysis is an essential decision-making methodology for supporting sustainable mobility as well as other fields of research. It is a multi-criteria decision-making methodology which allows for the inclusion of multiple stakeholders. Stakeholders are the people who have an interest, financial or otherwise, in the consequence of any decision taken. Inclusion of stakeholders and know which criteria have the most impact are the most important to different stakeholders around a given problem, in order to find the consensus and increasing the chance of success of a project. Here is the structure of the MAMCA. It is clear to say that MAMCA involves the concept of stakeholders. In contrast to many multi-criteria analyses, stakeholder groups can use different criteria trees in MAMCA with their own preference. In considering the perspective and the interest of different stakeholders, it is easier to find a sustainable solution which satisfies their needs and concerns. Here we can have a look at how MAMCA works. Unlike classic multi-criteria analysis, MAMCA involves stakeholders after defining the alternatives. The stakeholder analysis is conducted, stakeholder groups are identified, and the criteria tree for each of them can be constructed. In step 5, the overall analysis is taken within stakeholder groups. Any multi-criteria decision-making methods can be used to assess the alternatives. The group decision support methods are well suited in this step, such as Promote AHP. There is no conflict between stakeholder group and the groups. The final evaluations and the results of every stakeholder group will only be confronted at the end of the analysis, which can reveal the preference of all stakeholders through multi-actor view. In the screenshot, you can find the multi-actor view of a case study entitled "The Last Mile in the Supply Chain." It represents the final scores on different alternatives for each stakeholder group. For x-axis, all the stakeholders are represented, and on the y-axis, the scores they gave to each of the alternatives. This chart represents the value of the MAMCA. It depicts clearly the support of each stakeholder for different solutions. To facilitate the use of the methodology, MAMCA software was published, and a new version of MAMCA software with high extensibility has been developed recently. The new MAMCA software includes several new features. It was developed with high effective technologies, and a new database structure is constructed. Thanks to that, the new software can react faster by consuming less resources. It gives the possibility to include more stakeholders in analysis. The new MAMCA software has modern user interface with new data visualization. On the right side, you can see the screenshot of the new software. Because the time limits, I would try to make the reflection on the academic benefits of developing the new software and MAMCA. The first reason to develop the new MAMCA software is to facilitate the workshop experience. It is observed that in a MAMCA workshop, invited stakeholders usually take a lot of time understanding the theory of multi-criteria decision-making methods we used in the previous software, such as Promote, or they preserved methods like AHP as a black box. Thus, we integrate the simple multi-attribute rating technique, aka SMART, to simplify workshop setting. With SMART, stakeholders can give the evaluation scores straightforwardly. They can save more time to comprehend the meaning of the performance score, and understand the importance of the presence of other stakeholders in the group. As the formula shows, suppose there are m criteria for one stakeholder group and h stakeholders within group. The final evaluation score of alternative I is calculated by accumulating the performance score of each stakeholder, which is the sum of performance scores of each criterion times weight. It is easy to know that different weight allocation on criteria and the different preference on alternatives from other stakeholders will affect the final score of one alternative. In the previous software, if there are more than one stakeholder in one group, the average weights and performance scores will be saved. However, in the new software, decision makers and stakeholders can check the box plot of their weight allocations. They can find the different priorities to different criteria. This is especially important to the group with massive stakeholders such as citizens, students, to analyze the homogeneity and heterogeneity within group. For example, here is a screenshot of stakeholder group analysis. It shows the result for one stakeholder group, local authorities, with on the x-axis the criteria of this group, and on the y-axis how each of the alternatives scores on the criteria. The color lines with markers are the performance scores on alternatives. The box plot shows the weight deviation of criteria. Here you can see the stakeholders hold different priorities on criteria quality of life, but similar priorities on criteria network optimization. The second reason to develop the new MAMCA software is to enhance the participation concept in MAMCA. This figure shows how the new participation system works. The project manager and invited stakeholders can have a better experience in communication and comparison in the new software thanks to the new participation system. It helps facilitate the MAMCA evaluation, especially in a workshop. After identifying the stakeholder group in a MAMCA project, the project manager can invite stakeholders to the project through the email invitation. As the dashed circles in the figure indicate, it is optional that the project manager and stakeholders can identify alternatives together. The stakeholders can also define the criteria of their groups with guidelines from the project manager. The project manager can coordinate the works of evaluators. For example, normally the weight allocation of criteria is more subjective than the evaluation of alternatives. The stakeholders can allocate weights based on their priority, though when they evaluate the alternatives, they may need help from the experts. They can discuss the consensual performance scores of alternatives in the stakeholder group. The project manager can put the scores they discussed in the evaluation table. After that, the stakeholders are able to use the same performance scores from the project manager with one click of a button. During the evaluation, the project manager is free to check the weight allocation and alternative evaluations from stakeholders. Also, as mentioned before, after the evaluation, the participants can check the average stakeholder group result. Stakeholders in the same stakeholder group are able to check the result of each other. The project manager can do the sensitivity analysis in order to reach the consensus among all. The new software expresses the differences of MAMCA from other multi-criteria decision-making methodology. It searches the win-win solutions by taking the different points of view from stakeholders' account. The new software can help stakeholders understand the impact on each other. The motivation for developing the new software is to make the MAMPA methodology more understandable and more accessible for the participants in the project. as our objective is to extend MAMCA software to a mass participation tool. The first step towards mass participation has already been laid with this new software, and we are continuing to work on it. In the future, we want to maximize the participation by developing a survey tool for MAMCA. We would like to investigate the interconnection within one stakeholder group, trying to find the homogeneity and heterogeneity within stakeholder group. Finally, we will reach the consensus among stakeholder groups by applying inverse mixed integer linear optimization. Can MAMCA also be used outside of logistics and mobility? We have built quite some knowledge in these sectors, but can be implemented in other branches as well. The new MAMCA software has been applied on European researchers in various domains. For example, in the area of energy, transportation, logistics, mobility. For more information, you can visit the MAMCA website. Thanks for your listening.